Deep beneath layers of ice, a secret has been locked away for decades. Blink News here, and tonight, we're unearthing a story that chills the bones and sparks the imagination. Researchers on a remote expedition stumbled upon a long-lost plane, frozen in time within a colossal iceberg. But this isn't your typical discovery. What they witnessed next sent shivers down their spines and turned their elation into chilling mystery. Accounts claim that after spotting the plane, the researchers observed a movement within the wreckage. A flicker, a shift, something unexplained. This raises a haunting question. What secrets lie hidden within this icy tomb? Did the plane crash and become entombed, or was it something more? Join us as we delve into this perplexing discovery and explore the chilling possibilities surrounding the long-lost plane found in the iceberg. Was it a tragic accident, or is there something more sinister at play? Prepare to be captivated by a mystery that will leave you grasping for answers. The plane's mysterious disappearance had become legend over the years. On a distant icy expedition, Dr. Landon's team unexpectedly found the frozen aircraft. Capturing every detail with their cameras, they were filled with excitement. But a sudden sight inside the plane shifted the mood dramatically. The team's minds raced with endless questions and theories as they tried to make sense of the bizarre situation. Little did they know, this discovery was just the beginning of a series of strange and unsettling events that would unfold as they continued their expedition. They had no clue what it could be, and Dr. Landon eventually ruled that it might just be a trick of the light. Though wholly unsure if that could even be true, he wanted to make this discovery and find out what had happened to the plane. At that time, he had no idea in how much danger Dr. Landon was putting his crew. Despite the doubt in his mind, Dr. Landon couldn't shake off the curiosity that consumed him. He had to know the truth behind the mysterious disappearance of the plane. As they continued on their journey, the atmosphere on the ship became tense and uneasy. The crew members were on edge, constantly looking over their shoulders and whispering amongst each other. Dr. Landon's determination to uncover the truth was admirable, but at what cost? Seeing something unsettling, when they eventually entered the aircraft, it had been a haunting sight. Everything was frozen in time, but as part of the crew explored, the other part of the group noticed something truly unsettling. They were confident that this couldn't be a trick of the light. They knew they had to warn Dr. Landon and their other colleagues. They had to escape. However, it seemed that it was too late. As Dr. Landon and his crew ventured a bit deeper into the ice, finding out how the aircraft could have been lodged into place, they couldn't believe what they saw. What did the group come face to face with? What had unsettled the onlookers? And most importantly, would Dr. Landon and his crew be able to get out unscathed? Dr. Landon and his crew had been planning this expedition for months, and now they finally got the green light. The weather was finally deemed safe enough for them to venture through. The number of hours of sun had been crucial, so they patiently waited for their day to come. They had no idea that during their wait, the ice would give way to something incredible. It hadn't been sighted before by other groups, so when Dr. Landon and his crew got closer to their site, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. A large chunk of ice seemed to have broken off during the winter break. Though that was incredibly sad, they couldn't help but feel amazed by what they saw lay beneath the ice. They even stopped the boat's engine to ensure they could take their pictures without any disturbances. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. A plane lost for at least a decade now found in the ice. It truly was a remarkable sight. It was something to write home about. Excitement filled them as they knew they would learn more about what had happened all those years ago. Dr. Landon and his crew took a few more photographs of the airplane in the ice, how it seemed to be stuck there, and its sheer size next to the large remaining chunk of ice. However, as they discussed various hypotheses, they had no clue that one of their pictures had captured something that would soon turn their excitement into dread. For now, the crew only knew they had to get closer to the plane. They restarted the engine of the boat. They knew before even thinking about the possibility of boarding the plane, they had to ensure that under no circumstances a large piece of ice, and therefore the airplane would fall into the ocean. If that were to happen, the team would be in big trouble. They first had to send out an underwater camera to check how deep the iceberg that the plane was stuck in went. If the iceberg was smaller than the part from which the airplane protruded, there could be a high chance of the ice breaking. They knew they had to be 100% certain, as they wouldn't purposefully endanger human lives. Luckily, after gathering and calculating their finding, they quickly came to a unanimous decision that the ice would be safe to venture into. Though there was never 100% certainty, they were all sure that a sudden break was highly unlikely. As the crew was preparing for their expedition, one of them made a staggering discovery. Dr. Landon's crew member had started to review the photos for their expedition and found something rather staggering in one of them. She had to make sure that she was actually seeing what she thought she was seeing. But when she was sure, she knew that she had to show Dr. Landon. However, as she showed him, all he could think was, how did that end up there? As Dr. Landon looked at the photo, he couldn't believe what he saw. It looked as if something was standing inside of the aircraft. Though shadows can always happen, even in crashed aircraft, it was strange that though multiple pictures were taken, this seemed to be the only time that the shadow could be seen. As they all mulled over what it could be, Dr. Landon ruled that it must have been a trick of the light. Though unsure of his words, his crew decided to follow his lead even if Dr. Landon was uncertain of his own words. Nevertheless, he couldn't let them notice this. He was their leader, and for this expedition to be successful, they had to examine what had happened to the plane. As they all mulled over what it could be, Dr. Landon ruled that it must have been a trick of the light. Though unsure of his words, his crew decided to follow his lead even if Dr. Landon was uncertain of his own words. Nevertheless, he couldn't let them notice this. He was their leader, and for this expedition to be successful, they had to examine what had happened to the plane. After all their calculated data, they split the group in half. One part of the group would stay on the boat, calculate and monitor the iceberg, ensuring the other half of the crew wasn't in any mortal danger. The other half of the group, who would join Dr. Landon, would face something much more challenging. Dr. Landon had brushed it off as being a trick of the light, but deep down inside he knew that most likely wasn't true. This anomaly meant that he was partially sending in himself and his crew blind. They tried to mimic the pictures they had taken before, trying to catch a glimpse of the shadow. Regardless, nothing of that sort seemed to work. The boat landed on the snowy landscape where one of the institution's buildings was. Though it had to power through the harsh winters year after year, it always stood in good condition. This was a good thing, as Dr. Landon's part of the crew took the snow scooters to go to the airplane stuck in the ice. As they went on their way, Dr. Landon tried to keep an eye out for anything suspicious, but regardless of how much he looked, with everything being a crisp white, he found nothing. The nerves were now starting to get him, which wasn't helpful in these situations. He had to remain level-headed, but for some reason something just kept gnawing at him. They were nearing the coordinates of the plane, and they could see the watery depths again for the first time in what seemed like a long time. The dark blue starkly contrasted the white snow, but it helped him gather himself once more. "Stop," he suddenly said as he saw movement. He could have sworn he had seen something in the distance. His colleagues had all stopped on his command, but when they asked him what was wrong and he couldn't pinpoint or explain what he had seen, doubts suddenly started to surface amongst his colleagues. He wanted to put on a brave face, but with the uncertainty of the situation and the strange things he had seen, he was unsure how to do it. "It must have been a trick on the eyes," Dr. Landon stated. "Maybe it had just been his paranoia over the photo." He gave the green light again for him and his crew to descend down the iceberg in protective gear and check out the crash. He was very curious about how the plane had ended up there and, more importantly, how it had remained undiscovered for all those years. The cold Arctic wind bit at Dr. Landon's team as they descended the glacier. Around them, an endless expanse of white, broken only by the distant crashed plane. Alice, the geologist, whispered, "This place feels untouched, uncharted." Each step on the icy terrain deepened their sense of isolation and wonder. The solitude was almost tangible, adding to the team's trepidation. Closer to the plane, the damage was evident. The hull was brutally torn open, with debris scattered. Joseph, the aircraft expert, noted this wasn't a simple crash. Amidst the wreckage, peculiar gashes stood out, seeming out of place. Dr. Landon pondered, "These marks don't fit the narrative." Dr. Landon, a skeptic by nature, couldn't help but question the seemingly out-of-place marks on the wreckage. As they delved deeper into the investigation, the mystery only deepened, leaving everyone grasping for answers and the truth. What was the true story behind the damaged plane and the strange markings? Only time would tell. Surrounding the plane were mysterious tracks. Emily, the tracker, pointed out, "These tracks are fresh, but who or what made them?" The eroded prints hinted at a presence, neither human nor typical wildlife. The snow hid much, but the team's curiosity grew. They were determined to understand. The plane's exterior told another story. Alongside crash scars were odd scratches, seemingly deliberate. Joseph observed, these weren't caused by the crash or weather. Alice suggested, perhaps wild encounters? Dr. Landon inspected closer, sure of a deeper meaning behind them. As the team set up camp, they discussed their findings. An old crash, recent tracks, and these scratches, Dr. Landon began, they hint at intertwined mysteries. Emily added, "It's as if this place holds layers of history." The crew sensed that the plane and its surroundings concealed deeper secrets. Their quest for answers had only just begun. After the day's unsettling findings, Dr. Landon's crew approached the damaged entrance of the plane. Hinges frozen in place required tools to break through. "We're about to step into history," murmured Joseph as they geared up. Tension permeated the air. They were on the verge of discovering stories long trapped in ice. The overhead light pierced the shadowed interior, revealing a haunting tableau. Meal trays lay toppled, drinks spilled mid-flight, and magazines half open. Time seemed to have stood still, capturing an interrupted journey. Emily whispered, "It's like a moment frozen forever." The weight of the past pressed on them, palpable in every preserved detail. Walking through the aisle, the crunch of frost underfoot was deafening in the hushed cabin. Alice, touching a seatbelt left fastened, murmured, "Someone sat here. They had dreams, hopes." Each step resonated with echoes of conversations, laughter, and life that once filled the space. The team felt surrounded by the spectral presence of past passengers. As they delved deeper, personal possessions emerged from the snowdrifts. A child's toy, books, a pair of glasses, letters never delivered. Joseph held up a diary, its pages stiff with cold. They're all storytellers in their own right. These artifacts spoke volumes, wordless testimonies of lives in mid-flight, abruptly halted. Evening settled around them, and as the crew ventured further into the wreckage, the biting cold wasn't the only thing sending shivers down their spines. Faint noises, whispers almost, seemed to dance around them, playing tricks on their ears. "Is it the wind?" Alice questioned, her voice tinged with anxiety. Dr. Landon signaled for silence, pressing his ear against the icy interior wall. The sporadic, almost melodic sounds were undeniable. It's like voices," Joseph breathed, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. The team exchanged nervous glances, each wrestling with the dawning realization that they might not be alone. Dividing into pairs, the team began a meticulous sweep, hunting for the source of the unsettling whispers. Every shadow, every fallen piece of debris held potential significance. Emily and Joseph moved towards the rear of the plane, while Dr. Landon and Alice veered towards the cockpit. Their torchlights flickered, amplifying the palpable tension. The further Emily and Joseph delved, the clearer the sounds became. A chorus of hushed tones rose from the depths, reverberating through the frost-covered walls. "It's coming from here," Joseph whispered, pointing towards a concealed compartment beneath a collapsed row of seats. Their heartbeats thundered in their ears, mirroring the intensity of the growing chorus. Gathered once more, the crew recounted their discoveries. "Do you think these sounds could be related to that shadow in the photos?" Alice pondered aloud. Dr. Landon stared deeply into the darkness, his expression contemplative. "There's a piece of this puzzle we're missing," he mused. The events of the day weighed heavily on their minds, shadows of suspicion cast over their quest for answers. With resolute determination, Dr. Landon led the crew through the claustrophobic corridors of the plane. Every step echoed with history, and anticipation built with each twist and turn. The further they ventured, the more the weight of what transpired on the plane pressed upon them. Finally, the cockpit door loomed before them, a silent sentinel guarding untold secrets. Pushing the cockpit door open, they were met with a scene that took their breath away. Controls and instruments were eerily locked in place, preserved in their final moments. Frozen switches, levers pulled to their limits, and dials indicating chaos painted a haunting picture of desperate attempts to avert catastrophe. In the dim light, the glow of a cracked communication screen caught their attention. Displayed was the final message, its meaning veiled in obscurity. "Descending into the unknown." The words seemed to reverberate around the cockpit, amplifying the chilling atmosphere. What had the pilots seen? What did they mean? Joseph, spotting a slightly ajar compartment, reached in to retrieve the plane's black box. The team's hope rested on this device, anticipating that its recordings would shed light on the plane's final hours. "This could have the answers," Dr. Landon murmured, holding the black box delicately, aware of the gravity of the find. As the crew made their way out of the wreckage, the initial excitement of the discovery had given way to contemplation. Despite unearthing significant clues, the overarching enigma remained. What had truly transpired on this ill-fated flight? The icy winds seemed to whisper for resolution as they departed, the mystery of the plane deepening with each step. As the crew stepped back onto their boat, relief was replaced by a sudden trepidation. The usually reliable equipment blinked erratically, and monitors displayed scrambled data. The ambience on board had turned palpably tense, with crew members exchanging worried glances. A sensation of vulnerability enveloped them, reminding them of their isolation in this unforgiving environment. Alarm bells rang as the boat's heating system, a lifeline in such extreme conditions, began to fail. Dashboard indicators fluctuated wildly, and a cold draft crept through the vessel. Dr. Landon, understanding the gravity of the situation, called for an immediate systems check. "We need to fix this, and fast," he uttered, his breath forming icy clouds in the chilled air. During a routine scan of their surroundings, a crew member gasped. Pointing towards the crashed plane, he murmured, "There, a white figure." Others rushed to see, but the figure seemed to vanish, leaving them questioning their own eyes. Was it a trick of the light, a mere reflection, or had they truly seen something inexplicable? As they continued their exploration, the sightings of the figure became more frequent and the crew became divided. Some convinced it was merely a trick of the mind, while others believed they were being visited by a spirit or entity. The once stoic and rational team found themselves grappling with the unexplainable, their beliefs and senses shaken to the core. Gripping binoculars and infrared cameras, the crew took positions, scanning the horizon intently. Each gust of wind, each ripple on the icy surface heightened their anticipation. Long hours passed, and despite their best efforts, the enigmatic figure remained elusive. But the certainty of that fleeting glimpse kept them searching, hoping for another sign. Nightfall approached, and as the crew gathered around, debates erupted. Some argued rationally, attributing the sightings to illusions created by the play of light on ice. Others felt a deeper mystery was at play, referencing the plane's enigmas and the eerie occurrences they'd experienced. As the discussions grew heated, the distinction between fact and fiction became increasingly blurred. The morning sun shone coldly on the plane's wreckage, revealing subtle anomalies around its periphery. Dr. Landon knelt, brushing away freshly fallen snow, unveiling imprints and scuff marks. These weren't the aftermath of the crash. They were newer, less eroded by the elements. "Someone or something has been here recently," he murmured, setting a ripple of unease through the team. The team of investigators stood around the wreckage, noticing the same strange imprints and scuffs that Dr. Landon had pointed out. The atmosphere was tense and eerie as they all exchanged nervous glances, wondering who or what could have been there. Had the missing passengers somehow survived the crash and made it out of the plane? Or was there something more sinister at play? The tranquil blanket of ice had been disrupted. Cracks radiated outward, interspersed with chiseled fragments that spoke of recent activity. Several of these fractures led toward the plane's entrance, indicating deliberate movement. The sheer pattern and purpose of this disturbance was disconcerting. The serenity of the crash site had been compromised, and the plane's status as a long-forgotten relic now stood challenged. With meticulous care, the crew dug and probed around the wreckage. Every uncovered detail seemed to weave a narrative of clandestine visits and shadowy occupants. The remnants of makeshift shelters, long extinguished fires, and other transient marks were pieced together. The plane, in its icy solitude, held stories of more than just its own tragic past. It also bore witness to more recent tales. Beyond the immediate vicinity, a curious set of tracks drew attention. They meandered, sometimes fading under snowdrifts, only to reappear a short distance away. Their shape suggested human origin, but their pattern lacked purpose. Following them led to an abrupt dead end, reigniting debates. Were they traces of lost explorers or remnants of something even more inexplicable? The weight of their discoveries settled heavily on the crew. Each finding, instead of clarifying, only deepened the enigma. Whispers spread among them of ghostly passengers, unsolved Arctic mysteries, or maybe other explorers who met the same chilling fate. The beauty and vastness of the icy landscape, once mesmerizing, now felt ominously silent, filled with tales waiting to be unearthed. Beyond the plane's perimeter, the icy landscape undulated, revealing an opening to a sizable cave. Dr. Landon's gaze fixated on it. Could this formation hold more secrets, possibly even remnants of life? Its gaping entrance, contrasting against the white expanse, seemed inviting, yet foreboding. "We need to explore that cave," he announced, his voice tinged with a blend of anticipation and caution. The group assembled at the cave's entrance, their breaths fogging up in the biting cold. Armed with headlamps and lanterns, they began their descent. The inner walls shimmered, refracting the feeble light from their torches, painting eerie silhouettes. The air grew colder, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber as they delved further into the belly of the enigmatic cavern. A sudden discovery halted their progress. Abandoned bowls, remnants of food, and a makeshift fire pit suggested recent use. There was an unmistakable human touch to this arrangement. These weren't relics from ages past, but indications of habitation in the not-so-distant past. The realization that they weren't the first recent visitors to this cave intensified the mystery. Deeper into the cave, the team stumbled upon a concealed alcove. Within, artifacts hinted at a long stay, a tattered journal, blankets, and more signs of sustenance. The narrative grew murkier, compelling them to question the identity of these cave dwellers. Were they survivors from the crash, lost explorers, or maybe someone else entirely? The cave seemed to guard its secrets jealously. Despite the chilling environment, a warmth of hope spread amongst the crew. The signs of life they found hinted at the possibility of survivors, perhaps still lurking in these icy depths. Determined to unravel the cave's secrets, the crew pressed on, the dual promise of discovery and potential rescue spurring them forward amidst the cold, enigmatic embrace of the cave. As they delved further into the icy depths, the crew couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The sharp echoes of their footsteps and the faint whispers of unseen creatures only added to the eerie atmosphere. But they pushed through, driven by their unwavering determination to uncover the truth behind the mysterious cave. The cavern's pathways spiraled downwards, taking the crew deeper into the heart of the icy abyss. Ambient light from their lamps danced on the walls, creating moving shadows that seemed almost lifelike. The labyrinthine structure of the cave, combined with the shifting reflections, played tricks on their minds, intensifying the feeling of unease. With each step, an unshakable sensation of being observed took hold. The crew could feel eyes on them, not just from one direction, but from various hidden recesses of the cave. Every so often, a fleeting movement would catch someone's peripheral vision, only to vanish when focused upon. It became clear the cave wasn't uninhabited. A soft murmur fluttered through the cave's tunnels, barely audible but unmistakably there. The gentle rustling sound, almost like whispers carried by the wind, heightened the crew's senses. Pausing frequently, they tried to discern direction and meaning, hoping it might be another human voice. Each echo amplified their anticipation, drawing them further in. Feeling the increasing weight of the cave's mystery and sensing potential dangers, Dr. Landon took the initiative to radio the boat. "We've made unsettling discoveries deep within the cave. We may not be alone. Requesting immediate backup," he reported, his voice edged with a mix of concern and determination. The radio crackled, underscoring the urgency of the situation. The crew, realizing the implications of their recent observations, readied themselves for a potential encounter. They formed a tight formation, ensuring all angles were covered. Lights were adjusted for maximum visibility, and every sound was met with heightened alertness. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. They knew a pivotal moment was approaching, and they had to be prepared for whatever the cave unveiled. The crew's hearts were pounding as they inched closer to the unknown. The darkness of the cave seemed to swallow them whole, adding to the tension and nerves. The only thing that seemed to cut through the thick atmosphere was the sound of their heavy breaths and the occasional drip of water from the cave ceiling. Deep within the labyrinth of icy tunnels, the crew turned a corner to find themselves mere meters away from a massive polar bear. Its colossal size and piercing eyes immediately halted their advance. The air grew thick with tension as each member held their breath, fully aware of the profound danger the animal could present if provoked. In the dim glow, they could see tiny figures moving behind the bear, her cubs. The realization dawned upon them, explaining the bear's behavior. Protective and fiercely territorial, the mother bear's posture clearly indicated that she perceived them as potential threats to her young. The gravity of the situation intensified as the crew recognized they were intruding upon a mother's sanctuary. Amid the palpable fear, there was an undeniable sense of wonder. The sight of the regal polar bear and her cubs in such a raw, unfiltered setting was nothing short of breathtaking. They embodied the raw power and beauty of the wild, a force of nature in its purest form. Even in the face of potential danger, the crew couldn't help but be captivated. Understanding the precariousness of their position, Dr. Landon gestured for a slow, deliberate retreat. Each step was taken with immense caution, ensuring no sudden movements that might agitate the bear. The crew's eyes remained fixed on the majestic creature, ensuring they maintained a safe distance while showing no signs of aggression. Emerging from the cave's entrance, the team took a moment to collectively exhale, the weight of the encounter settling in. The experience served as a stark reminder of nature's unpredictability and the sanctity of its habitats. As they regrouped, the crew shared a renewed appreciation for the wild and the importance of coexisting with and respecting its magnificent inhabitants. Back on the boat, the team gathered around a makeshift table, laying out all the collected data, photographs, and artifacts. The enormity of their journey was evident as they began connecting the dots of their expedition. Discussions ensued, theories were proposed, and slowly, the once muddled picture began taking a clearer shape, providing a more comprehensive narrative of their Arctic adventure. Sifting through their photographic evidence, a recurring anomaly caught their eye. Zooming into several images, the faint white silhouette of the bear became increasingly evident. It seemed the creature had been shadowing them, perhaps driven by curiosity or protective instincts. This realization connected the sporadic disturbances and sightings they had encountered, revealing the bear's elusive presence. The group's excitement grew as they pieced together the puzzle of the bear's presence. Memories of strange noises in the night and glimpses of an enigmatic figure now made sense. As they continued to study the evidence, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease mixed with fascination. With bated breath, the crew played back the cockpit's black box. The audio painted a harrowing tale of the plane's tragic descent. Turbulence, technical failures, and desperate calls for help echoed, immortalizing the crew's valiant efforts to salvage the situation. It was a somber moment, grounding everyone in the reality of the events that transpired so many years ago. As the audio played on, the tension in the room was palpable. Each click of the recorder brought the crew back to that fateful day, reliving every moment in agonizing detail. But there was also a sense of closure, as the crew's bravery and determination shone through in their final moments. The black box recording was a powerful reminder of their sacrifice and served as a testament to their bravery. Their Arctic sojourn had unveiled a tapestry of life and history. From the majestic polar bear and her cubs to the traces of human activity in the plain and cave, it was evident that the Arctic was not just a desolate expanse. It was a dynamic, ever-changing landscape, home to creatures and stories that defied imagination and often eluded understanding. The ship's horn sounded, signaling the end of their Arctic expedition. As they sailed away, the crew took one last look at the horizon they had explored. The journey had been transformative, unveiling the mysteries of the Arctic while emphasizing the delicate balance between man and nature. With heavy hearts and enlightened minds, they bid farewell to the icy unknown, forever changed by their discoveries.